Hey, we're live. Hey,
Yay!
everybody, on Get Spooky Society on Intuition of the Soul. We are so excited to bring this Halloween treat. Kaedrich Olsen, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun.
we're really very excited. I'm going to be watching. We're a little bit ahead of time, so we're probably just going to chit chat for
Sure.
those people
Oh,
who are. But it's such an honor to have you here, and we want to give a big shout out to Chrissy Newman who hooked us all up with you. We so appreciate that you're willing to come and talk to our group, and thank you, Kristen. You rock. You know those people that help us find speakers, Cinnamon,
wow.
anybody. If you have friends, Stephanie has found Chrissy. This is what we're all about here at IOTS, a platform for people to meet and learn things.
Yeah,
So pretty exciting now. So
That's right.
yes.
It
you
says
know
we have 7 people.
All
There's
right.
Marcia and
Hi,
Sue and
Sue. Hi, Marsha.
Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Kristen's on. Yay. Kristen, we just
Yes.
gave you a big shout out, so hopefully you heard it.
Hello, Facebook user. I don't know who you are.
Yes, if you're on Facebook, please give us permission so that we
Hello,
can display your
Sandra.
name. Hi, Sandra. And we can display your name, and we'll be
Oh
going from
gosh,
there.
they're coming in like crazy now. Hello, Beth.
That's why I wanted to wait for 8. So, because
Hello,
we got,
our paranormal world.
yeah, all kinds of people hopping on.
Yeah.
And Chris,
Kristen says hello, Kaedrich.
Hey, how
yeah,
are you? Glad to see you here.
so,
Hello, Joanne.
so we've got about 1 more minute and we'll
All
start.
right.
And, here we go. And I want to thank Stephanie from Get Spooky Society, our,
Emma.
our, our connection to paranormal, everything paranormal, broadcasting across our friends at Get Spooky Society. So
That's right.
it
Paranormal are us.
yeah,
That's right.
that's the start. So
Hi,
um
April.
so we'll let people come on in.
All
Again, if you're
right.
on our Facebook, please give permission to use your name.
So we don't
That's
have to
right.
call you something derogatory.
Oh, hi Beth.
Hi,
So
Beth.
we're gonna probably stop the highs in a minute so we can start.
Yeah, yeah, because
Because
poor Kaedrich will be, and we're like,
yeah,
hi.
yeah.
We're
So
still
we
waiting though. We've got to give them a minute to get on. Sometimes it takes people, different computers and different systems take.
Well, it is just now 8 o'clock. And just so you know, our paranormal world is her name's Kim.
Oh, Kim.
Kim?
Okay, great.
Hi,
Hi, Kim.
Teresa. Hi, Tina.
So for our friends over at Get Spooky Society, um, Kaedrich has agreed to come, and he's going to talk to us about runes, about his paranormal investigations, and tell him about himself. We always leave time to be able to ask questions, and so the three of us will be asking questions, and then we'll be opening it up for questions and monitoring what's going on. So
So it's probably better to hold your questions to the end because if there's a lot of other chatting and stuff like that, we want to miss it. So just hold them
Right.
for the
yes,
end.
and we ask that you don't have chats with each other during this either, because it is
Right. But
programmed
I
and it's
mean, they
being
might say,
recorded.
oh, I love that,
Yeah.
or, they might be
Yeah, no,
commenting.
that's fine. Just
Yep.
sometimes people decide to have a side conversation, and we can
Yeah.
see it, guys. So
Right.
anyway, all right. So it's 8:01. Let's
Yeah.
begin.
Let's
So
get
Right.
going.
all right. So welcome to Intuition Soul, Get Spooky Society. Kaedrich, can you give us a little bit of your background, what you do? Just we like to collect people's stories.
Sure. The
Okay.
current work that I'm doing, I come from a background of Norse mysticism, teaching the runes, working with the runes, helping people learn the runes. It's something I've been doing since I was a kid. And I got really involved in Norse mysticism as an undercurrent, as an underlying facet of the different ways of looking at the world, a different way of perceiving things. So runes have been a big part of what I've been doing. But that wasn't all. I was one of those freaky weirdo kids, right? I grew up in a haunted house where you could set stuff down, turn around, it would be disappeared. I remember a time watching TV, and it was with the old fashioned with the dial on the TV, right? We had to manually stand up, walk across the room, change the dial, and watching TV, the dial would physically change while we're sitting there watching TV. You could be in the bathroom, you'd hear footsteps going up and down the hallway. That was just a normal occurrence for me. And my parents, I remember when I was a really little kid, like a toddler, we went to some church, just like kids do, didn't even process it, didn't even think about it. And then at some point, my parents decided they wanted to be normal. They wanted to go to a normal church. So they shopped around and landed at a Lutheran church for a couple of few years until I started saying, hey, I'm seeing these things. I'm talking with these things. I'm experiencing this stuff. My parents just kind of looked at each other and said, okay, I guess we go back to our old church, which turned out to be a spiritualist church. And, looking back in time, 2020 hindsight, it was your typical Protestant stand up, sing, sit down, listen to the lecture type Protestant church. But it was unique in the fact that the service ended with 1 to 3 mediums coming up on stage to do transmediumship. And then every Saturday night, we'd convene in the basement of the church and they'd have a big old seance. So I learned how to do seances from a very early age. I learned growing up in a haunted house that this is actually perfectly normal, natural. This is a normal part of our world. And so when I went on learning about runes, teaching runes, doing the whole Norse mysticism, becoming a pretty prominent leader in the local Norse community here, I got kind of near celebrity status. I would show up at events and people would be like, oh, hey, Kaedrich. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. But all the while I had the paranormal stuff going on. It just never was prominent because it wasn't too well received in the Norse world. It just, just people are still like standoffish and weird, and that's fine. And to me, it was so normal. It's like, why would you want to talk about it? Why would you? Why? Why? It's that whole Dunning-Kruger effect. The more you know about something, the more you assume everybody else knows about it too. So why talk about it? Why bother with it? Because everyone else is doing it. And so this paranormal stuff is just normal to me. I'd see the horror movies. I'd watch the ghost hunters on TV, and I just roll my eyes and grit my teeth and going, gosh, how wrong can you guys get? I get it. It's entertainment value, but whatever. And so I just continued this path for a while until I came across a psychic at a seance at an event that I was doing. I was help running the rituals for an event and teaching some classes. And I met with her, helped with the seance because I was there, tuned in, waking up, going, hey, here's what's going on, and talked with a paranormal investigator. And I'm realizing it's like, oh, the world needs more of this stuff, really? And it's just kind of like, I felt like I was living under a rock. Like, I knew all this stuff. This was a normal part of the world. But, talking with a paranormal investigator about an attachment he had and how it was showing up in seances and how it was skewing the data that they were getting from their investigations, because this attachment would show up and just like mess with stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, if you got an attachment, sure, here, let's do this, let's do that, and get you done and ready to go. And he was like, really? That's what we do? And I'm like, yeah. And, when you go in, you just do this and you do that to keep yourself so you don't have that happen. He's like, wait, I've never heard this before. What? And so I sat there talking with my friends going, would you benefit from a class on the paranormal and how to protect yourself? And they're like, yes, we need this. So I put it together and we went out to New Orleans a year later. I taught them this class and it blew their minds away. I got positive feedback that they would go on investigations using the stuff that I taught them. They asked a few questions afterwards. No problems. Doing good. So I'm finding myself segueing more and more away from the Norse stuff because it's good. It's powerful. It's very useful. But moving more and more into the paranormal, teaching what I have learned from a lifetime of experience and growth, teaching what I've been able to apply using the runes and Norse mysticism in this way to help people with everything from the bad juju in the house to attachments to even raising their own consciousness so that they can perceive the paranormal world around them and interact with it in a very positive way. So I guess in a quick little nutshell, that's me, my background, and what I'm doing right now.
Well, we know that you wrote a book about
Yeah.
runes, and um, can you speak? There it
Runes for
is, runes of
transformation.
transformation, and it's
Available on
available
Amazon.
on Amazon. And what had you? So, can you tell us a little bit about the book, and we'll go into the paranormal too. But and I know you kind of marry them really well together. So,
Yeah. The premise of the book is really loosely based off of the Hermetic principle of correspondence. If you're familiar with that, it's
no,
above, so below, as within, so without.
okay, I didn't know it had a name, so thank you
I
for
Yeah.
didn't
that.
either.
And the way I approach it is this book is not a book on runic divination. It's like one of the few books out there that is absolutely really nothing to do with divination. There's a little bit in it, but not really. It's more about looking at what the runes are, understanding what the runes were to the ancient peoples, and divination with runes is a 20th century concept. It wasn't something in the old times. It was all brand new invention stuff. Runes in the old times were their basic form of writing. It was the written form of the Old Norse and Proto Norse languages. And as such, every rune also had a meaning and a value to it. And so it became the basis of their magical systems called Galdr. And Galdr is not only carving the runes with certain intentions, but also singing the runes using vibration and intention to create manifestation. And so I built off of all of these principles that the runes are values, the runes are concepts and ideas, and that there are runes within us. There are runes in the world around us. And because the world around us is a reflection of our inner world, if we could get a good understanding of what our inner landscape is from the runic perspective, in which I invite everybody to go through the book, there are exercises throughout the book, to look at each of the runes and how the runes apply to you so that you have a good understanding of what your inner world is. Now you can go out to the world around you and look at the world and see what those runes are and how they're reflected. And if you don't like the way the world is around you, well, then we start with the runes inside. I'll give you an example of this one. The very first rune, Fehu. The rune Fehu is a rune of value. It's really where we get the word fee from. You know, and it deals with investments of time, effort, energy. It can't even be money. And what I invite people to do is, as they're exploring what the ancient perspective of Fehu was, look at things in this world. Like if you have your cell phone, sure, it's got its value of money that you pay for it, but what also is its value? What is its value as a communication tool, as a scheduling tool, as an entertainment device, right? What are all these different values that your cell phone has for you? The table that this computer is on, what is its value? Not just the monetary value. Now I invite you to explore you. What is your Fehu value? Of course, there's no monetary value associated with humans. We're not going there. But what is your value? What's valuable to you? What are your values? And you can really get a good perspective of what that is, and then go out into the world and see how your value is reflected in the world around you. Next, we'll look at the rune Uruz, which deals with strength and primal power, basically the root of who you are. And so we look back at the table, and the table's Uruz, of course, it has that strength of being able to hold objects on it and be stout and strong and hold that up. But now, what is your Uruz? What are your strengths? And how does that pair with your Fehu? What are your values? And then you go out into the world and see how are your strengths and values played out into the world. And so I invite the reader to go through all of the runes in those ways, internally and then externally. And then I go through exercises where we get into Galdr, singing the runes. So now you can put the runes together to create affirmations and mantras that you can sing your intentions to life, so that you're changing your inner world so that the outer world becomes a reflection of that. And then the outer world feeds that new inner world for you. And it becomes this great cyclical growth process. And that's basically the premise of Runes for Transformation.
Oh, I love that.
I do too. And I love that you have exercises in there. So not only, you're telling them this, but then they can actually put it into practice. So what a great practical book for somebody like me who only knows, has only heard the word runes. I know nothing else about them. That's my limited knowledge. So if it was somebody like me, there's enough in there that I could understand after I read the book, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have gotten feedback that it's not necessarily a beginner's book on runes, but that's okay. Anybody from any level of rune work could actually pick it up and spend some time, because I do have an entire chapter on just getting to know the runes themselves and how they were used. So, yeah, it may not be beginner, but a beginner can pick it up and still become adept at the working.
Okay, perfect.
Very good. Now, is this a tool you use then in your paranormal work too?
Yep, because the big key rule that I have for paranormal workings is just like that Hermetic correspondence principle. Similarities attract and perpetuate. So if you are finding that you are dealing with some negative paranormal issues over and over and over and over again, well, then I invite you to take a look internally and see what is it about you that may be drawing them to you. And I'm not blaming the victim. I'm just saying that there may be some sort of an energetic state within you that is bringing those paranormal experiences around you. And if you're aware of that, we can use the techniques in the book to go in and modify your inner world using those runes, so that now you're generating energy and creating an energetic environment around you that is no longer conducive to negative paranormal experiences.
Oh, that's really very interesting.
I have to say that, well, so Ashley, who is on my paranormal team, is our rune reader. And
Nice.
she usually draws some before we go into an investigation. I don't think I'm hoping she was going to be here tonight, but I think maybe your book might be her Christmas present.
Yes.
But we haven't had a lot of negative energy in our investigations.
Great.
We purposely don't allow it from the beginning, if at all possible. And sometimes we joke that maybe that's why we aren't getting the poltergeist activity or whatever, because we're not really allowing them in. So we joke about, maybe we should lift it a little bit so we can get some of that activity, but I don't know if it's worth it.
Well, that's a very interesting point, because that's one of the things I sort of talk about in my course that I put together for paranormal investigators, is the hierarchy of an interaction and how it could start off something simple as like feeling a shift in the energy or a cold spot, or maybe you notice an odd smell, or you've got like this notion that something is up.
Mm-hmm.
And when
All
you
of love.
exactly. And then when you can tune into the emotional nature of that, that's an important part, is you're using your clairempathy to tune into the emotional nature of that energy. That then gives you the awareness and the opportunity to either, one, tune into it and say, oh, what's going on here? And two, to say, oh, nope, I don't want a part of this one.
Yeah.
And you put up your shields and you put up your protective force.
Right.
And that awareness also gives you the launching point where if you do want to tune into it and say, okay, what's here, then you can actually start feeding homogeneous energy into the environment so that you're boosting up those energies and those spirits that are in there, at the same time maintaining your sense of sacredness, your connection to protection, being aware that you can put up that bubble or the shields in an instant if you need to. So you can work with that just by picking up that energy, and then you can amplify it a little bit by just giving it a little bit of a feedback loop onto it.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
I do too. That's a really good.
We get those questions a lot from some of the folks that come on our lives is, what do you do if you run into a negative energy? So I like that solution.
Oh, I'll give you a simple thing. And this is my basic triage that I give to everybody when you encounter a negative entity, let's say potentially negative entity. The best thing that you can do is laugh. Laugh to the point where your eyes crinkle. Because if you're encountering, like, let's say, a thought form that's based off of fear, which there's a lot of these in haunted places and people dealing with them in haunted homes, this thought form will poke you with fear energy, hoping you're suddenly feeling like, oh, what's going on? Now you're generating fear, and it's going, oh, thank you for feeding me. That's great.
Yeah.
So if you can be aware that now I got this poke of fear, oh, that's funny. What are you trying to get out of me?
Right.
You are now poisoning the well to this thing trying to poke at you. And so it will suddenly go, "Ooh, I'm going to leave you alone." Now,
Okay.
if it's a positive entity and a very good entity that you want into the room, and your clairsentience is kicking in and picking up, there's something in the room, but maybe you've got this belief pattern or you've got some old patterns in the subconscious, and now you're like, oh my gosh, there's a spirit in the room. What do I do? And you'll laugh.
That's Kitty.
I'm proud of you, Kitty, for standing up.
That's awesome. Thank you. Because I bet you there's a lot of people out there feeling the same way.
Yeah.
So you're picking up on that one, and maybe you're feeling that fear moment. But now, if you laugh, you're creating this positive energy, this good energy that will actually enhance the interaction with the spirit in the room. And if it's sticking around, lingering, and it gives you a good interaction, now you know you actually have a positive entity as something that you do want to work with. So laughter will chase away the negatives and will reinforce your connection to the positive just by shifting that energy.
Awesome. What if, so we do have a question, but I had the same question. I tend, if I'm feeling a negative energy, which has only been a few times, I felt a negative energy, it tends to try to get me to provoke. That's the only time, because we don't provoke. That's the only time I want to provoke so bad. So what if you do get angry, then what is that? How does that make it a negative energy respond?
That's exactly a very good question, because I'll defer to Doctor Who for this one. Doctor Who really gave a great statement about evil, that evil is really only a matter of which side of the fork you're on.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Love that.
That's a tattoo waiting to come. You
Is
know?
Which side of the fork are you on?
Yeah, right.
So what I mean by that one is, let's say you're feeling that entity in the room trying to provoke you into an anger state. The reason why it's doing that, to try to get you to provoke it back, is because that's going to feed off of that anger energy.
Okay.
Maybe it's like angry.
So it can't make me afraid, so it's going to make me angry, so it gets the same effect.
Exactly. And those kind of entities come in so many different flavors. Every emotion that you could feel, from the anger and fear and jealousy to even happiness and bliss and contentment, they can actually live off of all of those different things, and they just see you as a battery. They're not malevolent. They're not evil. They're just like a little ball of energy that subsists off of a certain type of emotional energy, and they're just trying to provoke you into generating that energy for them. So it comes with that exact awareness that you had, is like, oh, you're trying to make me feel angry. That's really funny. And you could laugh it off, or you can go into like a state of awe, going, wow, that's really cool. What are you trying to do to me? That's funny. I can feel this energy and I can feel it coming from you, but now I know you're real, and that's cool. That also sets that thing off, and just they go, oh. Now, sometimes if they're a little bit smarter, a little bit used to poking you, like, maybe there's a thought form in the house or a place where you're used to, and they're used to poking you, and you're a really good source of energy, and now you laugh at it, or now you're in wonder about it, and it's like, no, that's not normally you. So it might poke a little bit harder, which is just your provocation to laugh and go even stronger into your positive emotions. And eventually this thing will give up, because all it's trying to do is just use you as the other side of the fork.
Okay. Got it.
How about sassy? When you're sassy to it.
Heck yeah. You get sassy with you. As long as you're having fun with it in some way, it won't bother you. And that's like when I do seance, by the way, that is my big rule for seance, is we're going to have fun with this. We're not going to take it seriously. We're going to have a good time. We're going to play around. And every now and then I get a spirit that comes in and reminds us, hey, let's just have fun with this. Because sometimes people can get a little too serious with seance. We do connect with loved ones. And sometimes there are some of those last messages that come through, and it can be sad. It could be, the happy, sad moments. Sometimes people are so used to the movies and the TV shows, they come to seance and they're afraid. So we have fun with it. And so if you're out on an investigation, if you're having fun with it and you can be sassy with it, that's one of the best ways you can protect yourself the whole time. Is just have fun and get sassy, play around with it. Don't take it too seriously. I mean, take the data collection seriously, absolutely, but don't take the experiences too seriously because you get wound up in another paradigm that you might not want to.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, is it possible to get like energy or spirit coming to you, but the person is maybe still alive? Like I know a situation where we feel like it's this person's grandmother who it was a really bad situation. She's not speaking to her at this time, doesn't even know if she's alive, but she like she's waking her up every night, like pounding on the walls. But I mean, is it possible if she is still alive?
Yep. In fact, let me run you through a couple of scenarios
Okay,
on what
perfect.
goes on with that. Whenever we have encounters with other people, especially family members, people we love, whatnot, we create what's called a tendril between us. And a tendril is just kind of like a cable or a hose that runs between people, and we can share energy back and forth with each other. And if that relationship turns sour, or maybe it always was sour, things don't always go right, that other person could be sucking and creating that whole negative energy cycle with another living person. And what's kind of interesting about tendril work, when I work with clients and we pull a tendril, and this is very real, happens all the freaking time. It's very bizarre. Let's say my client is in an abusive relationship that's coming to an end, but their partner just keeps harassing them, keeps giving them problems, whatnot, or maybe they're completely, let me set it this way, they're completely cut off, but they keep getting those obsessive thoughts, they keep getting those feelings. Great, we'll pull this tendril. We do the work, we pull the tendril out, we do some energetic healing so that the tendril's no longer there. That night, invariably, it's so weird. That night, sometimes the next day, the person calls them up. I was thinking about you, and this is what's going on, and we need to be doing this, because that person is subconsciously trying to reconnect that tendril. It's
Wow.
so bizarre. It happens almost like it's textbook. Now, let's say this is a scenario that we can build off of. And in order to get into this scenario, I need to have us come to an agreement on this assumption that humans are incredibly powerfully creative entities. We can create beings, we can create thought forms, we can create all sorts of things, to the point where I am convinced from my years of experience in working with people that poltergeists are not actually an entity in the house. Poltergeists are provoking the people in the house to telekinetic abilities. So there could be entities in the house, but whatever's going on, that person is creating the knocking on the walls, creating things flying across the room, getting knocked down, even creating scratches on another person. And so if the person, and I'm just going to do a hypothetical because I don't know the details of the situation, but I'm just pulling a hypothetical,
Mhm.
that if there is a tendril between the people and one of those people, the receptive side, is very psychically inclined, whether they know it or not, they could be creating the poltergeist situation, creating the knocking on the walls and creating that whole situation because they're picking up on that energy feedback that's going through the tendril and going, whoa, it's here. And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's what's going on.
Yep. Remember what I said, Amy? I said, could she subconsciously be doing this to herself based
because
on what just happened with the emails and stuff?
she ran into some old emails and then it started.
Yep, that
Yep.
sounds very poltergeist effect. I don't call it a poltergeist, I call it a poltergeist effect because
Gotcha.
I want
Okay.
to separate that it's an entity. That sounds very much like a poltergeist effect.
Do you think that
Okay.
sometimes we call these effects to ourselves because there's a timing beyond what we understand to wake them up, and they have some unconscious beliefs that help them create that they have to do it outside themselves as opposed to an awakening?
Oh, yeah, we are projecting all the time. We can, I do a lot of shadow work with people, especially paranormal stuff, shadow work, where we get into the icky, awful feelings and memories and emotions and belief and that sort of things. And shadows, the way we know a shadow is we project them onto other people. We're like, well, I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe they say this. I can't believe they dress this way or they're doing those things. That's how we project it. But if we aren't necessarily doing it that way, we can also project it energetically into the environment and then interact with it back and forth. And this is one of the ways we create thought forms and accidental tulpas. These are ways we create all sorts of a bevy of entities and energy patterns that we interact with, and we look at it as external, but really it's an internally generated thing to work with from the internal world.
Mm-hmm.
So, would your recommendation then, if you're in the paranormal, you do some shadow work before you even start?
Always. Once upon a time, somebody asked me what I felt the best tool was when doing magic, performing magic, and I'm not talking about prestidigitation. I'm talking about magic. And my answer is psychology. And when it comes to the paranormal, I absolutely love the term parapsychology, because you can never remove the psychological element from what you're experiencing, ever.
Wow. There's something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take other questions?
You touched on the tulpa, and if I said that right, and that's
Yep.
Nicole had asked that. So you already answered that question, I believe. Great minds.
Can you tell me what that is?
Sure. A tulpa. There are various types of created entities that we as human beings create, because we do that. Thought form is just basically a simple mindless entity that exists off of a single motion, a single thought that gets fed back off of that. Another type of created entity is called an egregore. And we create egregores from our stories. Like this location has all of these haunted things going on and these awful things. And here is the history of what happened. And all of these kind of stories and those fears and those emotions will compound to create an entity that's actually pretty complex in form and will do what it needs to do to subsist its existence. Usually when an investigative team goes into a place like an abandoned asylum or a hospital or whatever, and they encounter that big nasty thing, they do encounter, the little fragmented souls and the people that are stuck there and all that sort of thing. But there's always that big nasty there. That big nasty is the egregore that was created from the stories. A tulpa is like an egregore on steroids, because an egregore lives within the confines of like a location or a story. Egregores could be angels and demons and gods and all sorts of things, but they live within the confines of the paradigm that they were created in. And they rely on belief and stories to keep them alive in their own, what is alive is. But a tulpa is a sovereign entity. A tulpa is kind of like maybe not an advanced soul, a higher soul, or a human level soul. It's capable of sapience and sentience. It can think, it can feel, it has its own life, it has its own existence. They can be very cunning, very intelligent, very useful, but at the same time, they can be really not good, depending on what they are. So if we have our collective beliefs that certain things are going on in the world, and this is the way the world works, and this is some alien or paranormal influence that's going on in the world, our collective beliefs are creating this tulpa that's wandering around, whispering in people's heads and energy fields and convincing them that to do these things that need to be done that are just kind of like, ugh, no, we don't want to do those things. But at the same time, it can be beneficial. Like a business, somebody's business, when they define the parameters of the business, like a mission statement and all of these things, what the business personality is and the branding, they're actually creating a tulpa for that business. So tulpas come in many different sizes and shapes and flavors, but they're just another form of created entity.
Interesting.
That's fascinating.
That
That
is.
is. That really is.
That was absolutely fascinating. There was another question up a little bit. Tina
Can
West.
yeah, she asked if it could if
An
Did you
entity
find
can
it?
cause,
Yeah.
Can an entity cause physical illness in your opinion?
Sort of. And this is one of the things to really keep in mind, that whole similarities attract and perpetuate, and the universe is a reflection of itself. As human beings, I want to throw out that notion, if we can, that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. I think we need to get rid of that one, because we are actually physical and spiritual beings having a dynamic experience. What happens to the physical can affect the spiritual. What happens in the spiritual can affect the physical.
Yeah.
They work
True.
back and forth.
Yep.
And it's kind of like a chicken and egg, Schrodinger's cat situation. They kind of create each other. And so if somebody is under the influence, an obsessive influence with an entity, they could be constantly have stress out energy. Let me just pull an example of this. They could be constantly have the stress energy in their body, and their energy field that relates to stress in the body. And when your body is stressed, it is producing like cortisol and adrenaline like crazy. Cortisol will attach to the T cells in your immune system and bog down your immune system, making it so much easier to get colds or other kinds of illnesses because you're stressed. And if you have an attachment that is just like, all the time, then that person could be stressed all the time, or it's even a thought form stressing them. And that would relate then to the physical distress upon the body. And so that's just one kind of example of it, but there are others, how it would work. And this is where I want a better word for this, but this is where I come to the word agreement. The right word is not agreement, because we tend to think agreement means a conscious worded, oh yes, I see this, let's do this together. But there is an energetic agreement that we have with these entities where it's like some part of us at the subconscious energetic level could be saying, it'd just be so much easier if I was sick more often because I can just rest and relax. Okay, so let's get sick. Or maybe I was just this really awful person because my parents always said so. So I deserve to be sick. So we'll attach to those things. We're not consciously aware that we're doing it, but there is some energetic anchor point within our energy fields that go, yeah, I deserve this and this is what I need. So let's have at it.
Yeah.
And then that thing will attach, and then that whole cycle creates, and next thing you know, they're sick.
Yeah.
Even
I-
weirder, and I'm going to throw this out there, and I remember this from back when I was a kid, one of the spirits saying, if you needed the healing, we could do that healing for you, but it would be so detrimental for you because that's what you talk about with people. And if we take away the thing that you communicate and connect with people, your life would just be miserable. So we're not taking that away.
I truly believe that, not if you have cancer or something like that, I truly believe you can make, if you say, I really need a day off tomorrow, so I don't feel good, you can really make yourself not feel well and get sick because you put it in your head. And if you are feeling sick and you really can't be sick because you've got to go to work, I feel like you can also talk yourself out of being sick.
Absolutely.
And that's what you just said, right?
Oh, yeah.
Basically.
I remember that when I was many years ago, I had to fly to the Philippines for my day job at the time. And I felt when I was there, I ate something that was not good. And my body was not happy with me. It was just like, okay, let's get this crap out of me. And I'm like, but I got to fly tomorrow. This isn't going to be good. And it's, a good 15, 18-hour flight. I don't remember what it was, but it was a long time of flight. But I'm like, okay, I get up. I got to go. I don't care how sick I am. I'm going to do this. And if that means I'm running to the toilet on the airplane, we'll do it. Nope. I was totally fine for the entire flight back. But the moment I set foot in the house, I ran to the bathroom and I'm like, really? So, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that what you're saying. It's beyond an agreement. It's some kind of bonding energetically you start to do.
Yes.
That you've entered into, whether unconscious or consciously, however you put it together. And so it's interesting because I'm now thinking about, I'm shifting my looking at this paranormal world, and that makes me go, bye, see ya,
Sit in the car.
get in the
Sit in
car,
the bar, the
sit in
bar, the
bar.
but the people that I have spoken to on the other side, mediumship, most of them have been smart asses because it was just very comfortable. Other than that, it really has been, don't need to see you, don't want to deal with you, for me. So, so this is a different twist on that. And what was, I got to write the word down. What was the word with the T?
Tulpa.
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 Tulpa. Yep.
Tulpa.
Comes from Tibetan Buddhism.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, we have the UK and Australia being represented in the house tonight.
Yay!
Nice.
In Canada and the
In
US.
Canada. Yeah.
Woo-hoo. I love it.
I did too.
Well,
It's great.
yeah, we've got the Netherlands too. So we're
Wow.
we got them in the house tonight.
That's right.
Great.
All around the world.
So, but yeah, this is absolutely fascinating.
I know, I'm taking notes.
Great.
That's just who I am, though. It's like, oh, I got to remember that. And otherwise, I won't. So I'm going to write it down.
Well, just the idea that it's an energy created sovereign being.
Mhm.
Perhaps it came from other energies. When they came together, they formed yet another piece. Do you think they're energies that once knew each other too?
Sure.
That formed a sovereign being?
Absolutely. Similarities attract and perpetuate. So if they have some sort of common energy towards them, they're resonating in some sort of a similar way, they'll come together, conglomerate, and make a more complex entity. Happens all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. I once worked in Portland, Maine, at what was an old hospital, and at one time a psychiatric mental health hospital, in the early 1900s. I refused to go in that, and then it became the Portland Schools offices, and I was a teacher working, and I would not go in that building in the evening or during the weekend if nobody else was in there. I tried to take my dog in, and my dog wouldn't go. I opened the door, and the dog went the other way. Then I was
those are
like,
the kind of
okay.
places I rush right into and go, "Ooh, what's going on here? How's
Yeah.
it going?"
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I went with the dog back in the car yet again. So,
One of the places, believe it or not, is an empty school. Go there at night when it's
Yep.
dark and there's no life in there, like the kids and all that. That's creepy.
Yeah.
Even though I taught for 30 years, it still was creepy when I'd have to go in there at night.
That leads to a very interesting discussion, I think, because one of the things I'm trying to teach about the paranormal is that we live in a paranormal world. It is all around us all the time, just like birds and bugs and rabbits and animals. Wildlife is all around us all the time. The paranormal is around us everywhere. And one of the other concepts I love to try to dispel is the concept of the veil. There is no veil. We are always interconnected. The paranormal and the physical are completely always interconnected. But what causes that illusion of the veil? And I do think it's a valid metaphor, especially for seance, and I will use it as a metaphor in seance. But what causes that illusion of the veil is our consciousness tuning in or tuning out. Mm-hmm. So we can be present with the stuff that's around us or not around us, which is why things tend to happen at night. Because we are calm, things are quiet, our mind can now situate onto one sort of thing, and we can tune into the environment around us. Then we pick that creepy vibe coming up, which is our clairsentience telling us there's energy in the room, and we fall back onto some of those old beliefs and stories that we heard going, oh, this is creepy. Then we start creating that energy around us, and we start opening more because now you're picking up on it, and it's like, oh, there it is. But really, it's not more active at night or any location. Well, some locations, yes, but not really more active at night or not. It's just if you're tuning into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we also, Kaedrich, we also get a lot of people that will reach out to us and say, I think my house is haunted, or I think this is haunted, or this happened, or send us an orb or whatever. And then they'll, what do you think? And we'll say, well, would you like us to come and investigate? And we have, a website, and sometimes we get paid, sometimes we don't, et cetera. And then they'll be like, oh, I don't want to stir anything up. Well, I don't think, to your point, I don't think you stir things up. You just might be more aware of them at that. We're not stirring things up. It's there or it's not there.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. And the way we stir it up is by this is where a lot of people get thought forms. And I'll tell you a very classic case of what goes on to create some of these things goes on is, let's say somebody is in the middle of the night, they come out into their living room, they sit down, and for whatever reason they see something pick up off the table, fall back down, or they see something move, because just maybe it's a little kid there going, oh, hey, what's this? Is this little toy to play with? But they've got all of those stories in their mind. Oh, this is real. This is now a real valid thing. I'm now experiencing the paranormal. And I know from growing up in the churches that if it's a ghost, it's a demon. And therefore, if it's a demon, it's here to make my life miserable. It's going to possess me. All of these bad things that I've ever seen going on in the movie are going to happen to me now because those movies are believable. And so that creates the cyclical pattern of belief and fear, creates the thought form, creates the poltergeist effect. Then they reach out to people. But the more they're interacting with this fear state and the fear thing, the more they're going to get that. They're already stirring it up by believing it. Meanwhile, that little boy in the house is going, what are you guys doing to me? I just want to play. Sometimes that little boy could be scared out of his wits because he's seeing these thought forms. He's seeing these things going on. He's now surrounded by that fear, which is where I help people to realize what they can do to help take back their homes, like almost instantly. Is we are programmed and we are trained that when we encounter the paranormal in our house to go, oh my God, what are you going to do to me? Yeah. But if you take a breath and go, oh, is there something I can do to help you?
Yep.
If you do that shift, that will change that energy around completely, and you'll get on much better terms with the stuff in your house, and the poltergeist effect and the thought forms and all that will starve and go away. And you'll get on the good terms with that little kid in your house playing with stuff. And then you can say, hey, Johnny, leave that ball alone. Leave that alone. I was watching that channel.
I love that. I love it.
Too. Well, and that's it. That's it. Because I did listen to your, I think it was on YouTube, because I was listening to podcasts and different things about the stages spirits kind of travel through. So this little boy is seeing all this because he's still looking from where he's still kind of here. He hasn't quite accepted all of those things.
Yeah, he's not quite ready to move on. He's still pretty dense, so he can manipulate physical objects if he needs to or wants to. So yeah, he hasn't quite moved on for whatever reason. He's just not ready to go, and that's okay.
But it's interesting now to realize that they're also seeing all our thought patterns, and it doesn't look the same as what he remembered anyway. So that's a different kind of empathy. We had a friend. She said a friend of mine wants to have a paranormal experience, but always gets nothing. Any suggestions for them?
Open your mind and release the expectations. I've actually encountered a lot of people saying they've never had a paranormal experience, but when we talk about things and we go back and forth, they really did. It's just we tend to think a paranormal experience is that voice in the house going, get out, weird things happening. But a paranormal experience can come from that time when you're sitting in your car at an intersection and you watch the light turn to green and you're still sitting there. It's like you don't want to go. You just don't want to move your car. And then all of a sudden, boom, the car goes through the intersection that would just smash the hell out of you. That's a paranormal experience. Or if you're just going about your day and moving along and you suddenly get this weird urge or this weird nudge to go do something or look at something or talk to somebody, but you don't know where you got that from. That's a paranormal experience. Going to sleep at night in your room and remembering that feeling of grandma coming in and tucking you in, pulling the covers up and giving you a kiss on the head. And then you have that warm, fuzzy feeling that you used to have when grandma used to do it. That's a paranormal experience. We just need to reset our expectations of what paranormal is.
Yeah, I think they always send me into a room and then I get in there and don't know why I'm in there. Or is that just it?
Is that old age? You're getting ready to let go. It is interesting though, because you were talking even about the images you have from movies, and I have always a child like, why the hell would I want to see this movie?
Yeah.
I never. That is not a genre I spend an iota of time in.
Yep.
And I remember my brother saying, "Why don't you want to see it?" I'm like, "Because it's too real. Why would I want to see it for entertainment?" And he looked at me like I'd lost my mind. So.
And nowadays, when I watch a movie like The Conjuring or Insidious, I'm just sitting there going,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
just too silly. But I do it so that I can help relate to people. So I can go back, like, you remember in The Conjuring, and when they were doing the seance and everything just went to hell and people are screaming and things are flying around and all that weird, scary stuff? Well, yeah. Well, I teach people how to do a seance in their home to connect with people so that things don't happen like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah.
they can keep. So I watch those movies in that way. But I will tell you, there was a horror movie that was pivotal in my learning to connect with the paranormal and work with the paranormal. I was 7 years old, staying overnight at my grandmother's house for the only time. And she had HBO, which was like a satellite on the roof. It was so old, it was not even cable TV. And my sister is 7 years older than I am. And she insisted that she wanted to watch The Exorcist.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yep. I was
Yep.
7
I knew it was The Exorcist. Yeah.
Well, that was my first. Yeah.
Yep. I sat there watching as a 7-year-old, glued to the TV, seeing Reagan sitting in her bed, laying there, and then the flopping around, the cussing and the puking and all the bad stuff and scary stuff happening. And then I had to go to sleep that night in a room by myself I've never been in an old house. And I do remember to this day that it taught me when I was going to sleep, I'm aware of every level of consciousness I have going down, going into sleep. So I'm taking it step by step. I'm aware of my thoughts versus the external thoughts that I was picking up. So I could differentiate back and forth between the two. So it was kind of like a motivator for me to learn what my mind was, what the external thoughts were, and be able to differentiate and say, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm going to disassociate from those feelings and emotions because they're not mine. I don't want them, but these are mine. So I could pull them together in a sense. That was really pivotal. But by the way, demons. This is my little
Just gonna ask about it. Just gonna ask about demons.
Demons, if we really look to the Catholic tradition and the Judeo-Christian religion, that sort of thing.
Recovering Catholic here.
There you go. The demons that are listed in the false hierarchy, the demons that are listed in the Goetia, all of the 72 classic demons that are part of the church's demonology were actually deities from the Macedonians, the Canaans, all of the religions that came before Judaism, before Christianity. And those deities were demonized and put down into these books. And what we talked about earlier with egregores, they could be gods. Imagine that these entities have been around for 5,000, 6,000 years, subsisting off of the belief of people. They're existing. They've grown up. They become wise, because these books will tell you that the demons that are good to call upon for learning science and mathematics, for learning music, they're like, what? How can they have all these beneficial things to them if they're these awful, horrible things? Now, if you have these beings that have been wandering around for thousands of years, interacting with human beings for a long time, don't you think they've got better things to do than get inside the body of a little girl, flop around and cuss and puke?
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it. And I'm not going to go into it for here because it's a discussion for another time. There is something else going on when a child is doing that, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the paranormal.
Got it.
That's the Catholic Church Judeo-Christian has taken many teachings, including the female side of their own religion, and demonized it and made it all of those things because it was about that control and stuff.
Control.
So it is interesting. It's interesting if you ever break down Christmas traditions and find out where they really came from.
Oh, I know. I got that Norse background. I know exactly where
Yeah.
it come from.
You know, that was about spirits in the trees. You know, like, So this is just absolutely fascinating because
Oh my gosh.
for
yeah.
me, it's much more of a discussion besides that. Let me run to the next room and, you know. But it's interesting that you had such a profound learning from a horror film.
Oh.
I have never seen that movie in its entirety.
Oh
I
no.
have seen.
And Lynn Riddle says that was my first and last scary movie. I'm with you, Lynn. It was mine too. Because I was young when I watched it. It was
Yeah. So, but it is interesting. So we have about a little less than 10 minutes because we have an hour commitment. Anybody have some other questions that they want to answer, or we could listen to you talk all night because
yeah.
it's absolutely.
So
Kristen says no scary movies for her either. So
I have a question. So you're actively right now teaching your class for the paranormal thing. Is that on your website? Like if someone was interested in that?
Yeah, actually, if you go to my website, you'll find links to some online courses I put together with a school called Ritual Craft School, but they're mostly runes and pagan men's work. If you go to my website, also you'll get a link where you can take a big 6-week course I put together for shadow work, and I'm modifying that shadow work course, which is just general shadow work, but I'm modifying it to be more paranormal oriented, and I'm building a class right now. It's a 4-week course for building paranormal awareness. I'm about halfway done with it, so stay tuned for that coming out. However, if you were to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or you get onto my mailing list, like go to my website and you can download a guide on 10 ways to protect yourself from attachments and tendrils and psychic attack. You get that for free. Just give me your email. But if you do that, you'll stay in the loop on the classes that I'm teaching through not only Ritual Craft, mostly or online, but also through a group called University Magicus, where all of their classes are Zoom. This weekend, I'm not sure when this will air or whatnot, but people are on live now. So this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, I'm teaching a class on ancestral beings of the Norse tradition through University Magicus. And on Sunday, I'm teaching the Black Mirror for seance. The Black Mirror is my favorite seance tool. That's what I use all the time. And I've got in my office here where I'm at, where I see clients, I've got about 5-6 black mirrors in here. So it's a class on how to use a black mirror for paranormal work, not just
okay. I'm going to ask, what's a black mirror?
A black mirror is just like it sounds. It's a picture
mirror
frame
that's
with
black?
a glass in it.
Okay, so it doesn't reflect then?
Oh,
or
big
it does?
Time. Oh yeah.
Oh,
but
I've actually never heard of a black mirror.
Oh yeah.
So
now you've got my attention.
No, you've had it the whole time.
It's a fascinating tool because it works as a portal to the other world, and it works as a means of seeing and visualizing changes. And you would never believe who actually uses it with his clients. Dr. Raymond Moody.
Oh, really?
The afterlife expert uses that with his clients to help them reconnect with loved ones.
Wow.
That's really cool. Our friend Cinnamon says it takes a magical being, warlock, to explain the beauty of shadow side and understand it from the inside out. So she says, thank you. And she says she has 2 black mirrors. So, Cinnamon, next time I talk to you, you're going to be showing me what a black mirror is. So.
Absolutely. They're just right up here on the shelf. There's a couple big ones over there.
So
we're always looking for new tools because we have such a great interaction with spirits whenever we do. I mean, the flashlights are and the cat toys, and we're always looking for something else because we're bored with the activity we're getting. We get so much. I think just because of our abilities to speak to spirits respectfully, and so we're always looking, something. What else can we use? So we've been racking our brains. I'll have to check that out for sure.
Well, there's a couple things that I can do to help with that. I do have a class coming up in another month, I believe it's December, on tools for physical mediumship. But I'm also going to put together a class for paranormal investigators on how to be your own K2 meter and spirit box.
Oh.
That's interesting.
That
I
is.
like it. I
That
like
is
it a lot.
good.
I like it a
That-
lot.
That's really pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We have someone said they love to scry in
They-
they said their mentor's black mirror scry and
Absolutely.
well, that's very cool. So any last minute questions, ladies?
But if we get on your website and sign up to your mailing list, then when these things become available, we'll get the information on it. So I
You
think
got it. I'll
that's
be
a
sending emails
that's
out
the
on
thing
that.
to reiterate for people.
Yeah.
Because you have some exciting kind of things coming up that might that we might, people might be interested in.
And I'm
I know you said a few
assuming
things.
I'm assuming on your website you have all the links to all your social media, your YouTube. I'm already part of YouTube, but you're all of that stuff.
Absolutely. And when in doubt, just look for my first name. It's pretty unique. If you put my first name into YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, you'll find me instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they try to correct it sometimes, and I'm like, no, this is right. So
Don't autocorrect.
Yeah, they always try to correct.
they always want to correct it. Do you have one platform you use more than another? Like
I've been sticking with Instagram more lately, and then just letting that feed to Twitter and Facebook, that sort of thing. But yeah, Instagram's the primary, and I need to get back into putting more videos on YouTube, but I'm working on it.
Yes, please.
your
do that.
YouTube videos are great.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you always link when you're a guest too, because then it adds those pieces of it. But I make sure I add you in Instagram because there's so many platforms. We like to ask our guests, which one do you use, so I can get most of the information. So
Yeah.
that's it. So well, we just want to thank you so much for coming on. What an amazing gift. Happy Halloween, trick or treat. It was both a trick and a treat. So we really, really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, and the comments, everybody is like, it's been incredible. You've had really good feedback. I don't know if you can see them, but yeah, people have really been interested in enjoying what's going on
Oh,
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and what you've been talking about. So yeah, so hopefully, get over, into some of his platforms and stay
Absolutely.
connected.
Yep.
and
So,
thank you so much for agreeing. Thank you to our friends out in Intuition of the Soul, like Kristen and Cinnamon and Robin and things, who always give us amazing guests. You are an amazing guest that we so happy. And, I think this platform is trying to be, okay, guys, help me again. What's it called when you make an entity?
Tulpa and egregores.
Of course. The bigger energy, just for this kind of learning and helping people let go of some of those beliefs and open up to. I love the fact you have paranormal matrix. Everything is all paranormal experience. So that
And
very
love-
good. That's a great shift.
You got a couple love comments for we are a physical and a spiritual having
Yeah.
a dynamic experience.
Experience,
I love
yeah.
that. Love
Yeah,
that.
that makes so much more sense to me.
It does.
Because that's why energy continues even after it has a dynamic experience and it goes on and finds its next evolution. So,
yeah.
Exactly.
which is why we know things that we shouldn't know, but they're there. So,
And
Like you.
Teresa commented that you've piqued some new interest to the
Great.
Yes.
nth degree. So, and I
Yeah.
think that's true because there's a lot of things that I learned tonight that makes me want to go and investigate or get more information on for sure.
okay, here's a big one. I might even go on a paranormal investigation
No.
Excellent.
And not sit in the car or the bar.
and not sit in the car. No, because I'm not. Some of that fear got shifted. No, seriously, though, it got shifted for me in like me not going la 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 la.
Beautiful.
So
I love it.
yeah.
Darn,
So-
now we can't scare you though.
No, but I can walk around all day going, there's a paranormal experience. There's a and so,
Oh my gosh, Kitty.
so
You
I just
created a
learned
monster.
yeah,
I
just
think
learned
so.
I just learned to chill more in the day. We'll work on the night and day thing. So, but so thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you to all our viewers out there in Get Spooky Society and
Thanks
Intuition
everybody for
of the
watching.
Soul. Namaste.
Rules
Aloha.
for Transformation available on Amazon or look him up and join a platform. There's so much more that I'm sure he can share with us.
And we'll be
Yep.
sharing his classes as we get the notices so that people can
Yeah.
find them. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Thank you, Kaedrich.
Take care.
Thanks everybody for watching.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.